I was born in a haunted house, literally
Right.
born in a haunted house. So my life was a bit like Sixth Sense.
Okay.
So like the little lad in Sixth Sense, there were spirits.
Yeah.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night and there were spirits over me face.
My name is Nik Nagarkar and you are locked into Culture TV. For the culture, by the culture. Let's go.
James, thank you so much for coming down, mate.
No problem.
How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
relaxed,
Yeah.
chilled. Yeah,
So you would describe yourself as a psychic medium.
yeah. That's what I would I'll say I am.
Okay. When did you first realise that you had those abilities?
Well, I would say 1990.
Okay.
I'd say, but like most mediums, I started as
How old were you in 1990?
God, don't even ask me that question. I've no idea. Maybe in my 20s or something like that.
Okay.
And
What I'm getting at, it wasn't something that you knew as a child that you had. It was something that came on a little bit later in life.
Well, I was born in a haunted house, literally
Right.
born in a haunted house. So my life was a bit like Sixth Sense.
Okay.
So like the little lad in Sixth Sense, there were spirits. I'd
Yeah.
wake up in the middle of the night and there were spirits over me face.
Yeah.
Or it was also a bit like Scooby-Doo because you'd have hands coming from under the bed or hands reaching out to you on the staircase. But again, as a child, you could think, looking at it now, you'd say to yourself, was that your imagination?
And what do you think?
It was haunted. The house was
Are you
haunted.
sure it wasn't your imagination?
No, it was haunted. Because later on,
Yeah.
when I started working as a medium and then speaking to family members, they'd say, oh, that house was like, terrible. The top of the stairs was weird and
Yeah.
there was something at the top of the stairs and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but like everybody, you get into puberty and then you have your mind going different ways.
Yeah, exactly,
So you're
yeah.
not really into, you're not going to sort of talk into spirits and whatever. But what sort of instigated me, I read books, I read
Yeah.
all the books that was out, Doris Stokes books and things like that.
Yeah.
So I had an interest, and my mum had an interest in it as well. And then in 1989, that's when my father passed over, died.
Right.
And like, most people, they want to talk to, somebody who's passed over.
Yeah.
And so I went to a spiritualist church.
Okay.
And the spiritualist church turned around and said, it's funny, as you get older, you start getting a bit, don't know what the word is, you listen to some psychics, the way they talk, and you think, it's just, they say the same thing over it. You could do this. Everybody has the ability. It's
Yeah.
not just one person who can do it. It's
Okay.
every single person.
Okay.
But it's your sort of, your motivation to open yourself up to it more,
Yeah.
to see what it is, how to, what is spirit and what is your imagination.
Yeah.
You do need a good imagination to be a medium, because the way the spirit worlds will work with you.
Okay.
So, you do have to have that, and you have to be creative as well. And so all that sort of kicks in when you...
So when you are talking to a spirit,
Yeah.
what do you see?
Well, first of all, you can hear voices, so you can hear a voice coming through. So that's
And is that a human voice?
It's like a human voice, yeah. So it's like it's called clairaudient, so you're hearing voices. But then people will say, you're opening your third eye.
Yeah.
And so some people would say, they've seen it straight there. But what you do get is a lot of spirits that would, if I was doing a reading for you, I would be looking, wouldn't really look at you. I'd be turning away and looking at spirit. But it's there, but it's not there.
Okay.
So it's a bit strange until it's when it becomes really, really solid. But when you start work, you may start working as a medium. You may get a voice. You may see something. You may sense something, but you don't necessarily get everything. So you get, you might hear, you might feel. So when you start working and you start developing that, it becomes stronger. And so, for instance, again, if you were doing a reading for somebody, the spirit would sort of manifest. So you may start at a pair of shoes, but that may be significant to you. So say, for instance, I was saying something like your great granddad is coming through and you had a close relationship with him. And I turned around and said, I just get this feeling as a granddad coming through. And the way I work as well, there's none of this. I'm getting a man coming through.
Yeah.
I have got to be correct.
Yeah.
And so I've got to turn around and either get the confirmation off the person, say I'm his granddad, or I've got to sense the relationship. So that's, I've got to work out.
And how do you sense that relationship?
It's the energy. So it's the energy and the love and the affection, and then it is like you get a feel of a father, a feel of a mother feeling, and so you just work on that sort of energy, and then what happens is, the more you're connecting with them, and the more, so I could turn around and say, oh, they're coming through and they've got a pair of trainers on, and that could be significant because it's like everyone will think a granddad in a pair of slippers, in a pair of trainers, for instance, but that might be significant to you because you could say, well, my granddad always wore trainers, but if they can come back with a sort of sense of humour, and so they might have a pair of sandals, Nike sandals, you know, and you're just like, it's got Nike on them, and you say, yeah, that's just him. So then what happens is they will build up. So they might have, for instance, I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and her father had passed over, and when he appeared in a pair of shorts.
Right.
But
and you could physically see him in shorts. And what do you see? Do you see a physical human being on Earth, or what do you like? What is it you see?
Again, it sort of builds. So what with him, how he started, which was really strange. I knew there was a father figure there, but I didn't know that she'd lost a father. And I said, I've got this gentleman coming through, and I said, I get this feeling it's like a father figure. And the stronger to become, I said, has your father passed over? And it was just a bit unlikely when I was talking to her, because I don't know why, everybody, you can lose your father at any age, can't you? And so the next thing he done was he kicked his leg up in the air, and I noticed he had bare legs.
Right.
And then the next thing, I noticed he had a pair of shorts on, but they were like army shorts.
Right.
And I said, he's kicking his legs up and showing me his bare legs, and he's got a pair of shorts on, and she just cried, and she said, that's my dad. And I said, it's dead straight, he's got really good sense of humour. And she said, we buried him in a pair of shorts, and we thought it was funny because that's what he wanted.
Right.
So when you get stuff like that coming through, it's very hard to argue. So you get, spirit, they want to work with you, and they will help you to try and get the message over if they've got a message to give. And with some people, some people need it. It's a lot of the people that come to you for a reading, and this is where people say you're sort of, let's say, robbing people because they're vulnerable. Is because they are, a lot of them are vulnerable, but it's the questions that they have for themselves is, what if I'd been there before they passed? You get people who turn around. It's so common that when someone dies in a hospital and you just happen to walk out the door just as they die, and people turn around and say, I wasn't there when they died and I feel so regret, and they might have been there 17 hours before, but they took a step out. So they come for a reading. So they basically come to have consolation or whatever to say, using the father.
Closure, essentially.
Yeah, like closure. So and that's it. That's why they would come for a reading.
What, from doing this work, how has it shaped your opinion of the afterlife?
I have to say I 100% believe in it. I believe in it, but
what do you think it is, though?
That's the question, isn't it? What is it? Millions of people ask, do all these spirits are just hanging around waiting to give messages?
What are they doing? Just waiting for...
but then...
Waiting for God? What are they doing?
But then again, so it all goes with your belief and your, if you've been brought up in a certain religion, where have they gone? Where they've gone to heaven and whatever. I was brought up as a Catholic, so, and a lot of mediums would have, as a Catholic, you're not really supposed to go and see a medium. And I was brought up as a Catholic, but you get a lot of people.
Are you still a Catholic?
I believe in God. I believe in God, but then the question
is... Do you believe in Catholicism as a religion?
I do.
You don't want to offend your mum now, do you?
No. Because I've been to loads of religious places, but I've been to churches and things like that. I believe in it. I believe in God, and I believe in I believe in it's. How can I answer that? without offending people. I believe in God, and I believe in if there's a true Catholic religion, I believe in that. But I think that the Catholic religion's sort of twisted around.
Well, I think, I mean, my perception of it is that, I mean, I'm the same. I believe in God. My background is that my dad's Indian, so his religion is Hindu by birth, but he never followed it or had any sort of real major interest in it. My mum, same. She was Christian, but not really into it. But my nana, she was a big Methodist, and she used to take me to church and stuff like that, and I used to really enjoy it. So I'd go like Sunday school, and I'd go church with my nana, and I got quite into, the stories and everything. I wouldn't say that I was like a raging Christian or anything, but like I got quite into it. And then as I got older, you start questioning it. And then I started doing quite a bit of research into like religion, because I do find it interesting how they've come about and how these 2,000-year-old books have managed to still stay relevant today. But I think it's like you say, what was written 1,800 years ago and what exists today is two different things for the majority. And I think it has been twisted and manipulated to serve political purposes, essentially. And I think that's where I think that's the problem with religion. If you take the actual message of most of these religions, they're all pretty much the same. Certainly Christianity, like Catholicism, Judaism, and Islam, they're pretty the same book. It's just like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it's how you interpret it.
Yeah.
It's like the Bible, how you interpret it. You could pull it to pieces, the Bible, and there's certain things that you can't do, and then there's certain things, and the saying you can't.
I'm not
do
into
this.
the whole selling fear elements, like
It's not.
don't do this or God will strike you down. Like, I can't. I mean, I understand some people choose to believe that. Me personally, I just can't get on board with that. I just don't believe if there is a God, and I do believe that there is, and the God that I believe exists, I don't believe he's waiting for you to fuck up so he can punish you. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you get to the end of your life, and say as a Catholic, you get the last rites, and please forgive them. So you get the, if you think of it that way, you can be a mess all your life, and then you're just going to get forgiven at the end of it. And then people turn around and say, you're going to go to hell. But if God loves you, you're not going to go to hell. And
why create a hell if he loves us?
But is there a hell?
Well, exactly.
But then with my work and what I've done and how it's sort of progressed, you go to venues where there's a ghost or a spirit or whatever, and you there'd be something that's less experienced spirit, I would say, not necessarily evil. I say less experienced because I believe that you're here to experience life.
Yeah.
And if you believe in you have a spirit, your spirit, it's all to do with coming onto the earth, experiencing something, and then moving on. And then I know it's an easy way to say it, and then you say to yourself, do you know what? I may go down next time and be a giraffe, just to experience that.
No, I totally agree. That's exactly what I believe. I think you come to this earth in however many forms or lives that you live to learn something different. And to grow and evolve.
I also believe time and space is irrelevant as well. And that, you hear people. One of my friends has been on your show, and past life regressionist.
Okay.
And one of the tales. Yeah. One of the tales you hear is, people's they're always Cleopatra, or they're always a king. You get the odd servants, coming through and things like that. And I believe I've thought about this, as an argument to people, and I think it's sort of. I don't even remember the program Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
But you were basically, was popping in and out of lives.
Yeah.
And I believe you can actually, because let's just look at it as a line of time, a timeline.
Yeah.
And I believe that you could die now, but pop back and be Cleopatra.
Well, they say time is a ball, isn't it? They say time isn't, because in a 3D world, I'm going to get deep on you here, but in a 3D world, we experience time as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In a 3D world, but in a 4D world or a 5-dimensional world, you're no longer following this up, down, left, right dimensions. You then have the fourth dimension, which is time. Now, there's a quantum theory that suggests that time is a ball. So in the sense that everything that's ever happened all happens at exactly the same time everywhere. So when you were born to when you die is all happening at the same time. And I suppose in that sense, like, I kind of, with your idea, I kind of agree with you that, yeah, let's say you could die in 2021 and maybe be reborn in the 1800s, or...
Because time's irrelevant. And it's like, you know, after the COVID thing, I turned around and said, I think we should just take 2020 out of the calendar and let's go back and call this 2020, you know. And it's like, but the way we're programmed, you can't do that. But it's everything's, you know, if you go back to Stone Age, they didn't have days, they didn't have, well, they had days, they had seasons, but they didn't have years, did they? And
probably not. I reckon they would have done though, like, because they would have, they worshipped the equinoxes, didn't they? So like, you had your winter equinox and the summer equinox. So they would have been tallying up.
There would have been seasons, but they wouldn't have turned around and said, "Oh, you know, as the leaves started falling, they'd probably say, no, this is going to be autumn now."
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have been saying, "No, it's like the 4th of October."
So,
You know what I mean? And so, you know, again, it's just the way we are, and how, you know, we're sort of. I don't know, boxed into things, and that's the problem. You know what I read quite a lot of books as well, and I just think to myself, it's very closed-minded to turn around. I don't mean about God, but it's very closed-minded to turn around and say there is nothing, because it makes you nothing really, and it's, you know, as energy. And I just think to myself,
I don't understand atheism. I don't get how. I mean, what a depressing life to think that I'm just going to live and then die and then that's that.
And like, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Really.
Well, I think I might probably get stick for this, but I don't care. I don't even care. I say what I want. It's my show. I just think without some sort of moral harness, whether that means you believe in God, like, you don't have to be a believer in God. I don't believe in that, but to believe in nothing. Do you know what I mean? I just find that it can't be healthy. It can't be good for your soul, because at what point do you say, well, this is right and this is wrong? How do you then, where's your moral compass at? Do you know what I mean? So I think belief in something is important, and like circling that back to religion, like whether religion is true or false, I think is kind of irrelevant. A lot of the messages within all of these religions are very positive. And if we to take those lessons and say, right, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. I mean, it's basically common sense, really, isn't it? But it's good messages that we should be sharing and passing down to, you know, to kids and whatnot. But I think without a backbone and core belief, I just feel like you can just so easily get lost in the world. Do you know what I mean?
I think for me, it's prayer. I'm not saying, you know, go on my knees praying all the time.
Do you meditate?
Yeah, I meditate every day.
Do you?
Yeah, it's part of my sort of. If I don't do it, I feel very anxious. Yeah. And because of my belief as well, I feel and I meditate completely different than I'd say other people.
How do you meditate?
I'll tell you exactly. I meditate, you know, just go into a sort of quiet mode. I have a meditation room. I have incense going, and I completely close my mind. Yeah. But it is even the best the people are, you know, the Buddhas and all this sort of stuff. They cannot clear the mind. They cannot clear the mind. So it's all you need to do. Going back to time, all you need to do is get split seconds or minutes of peace for your mind, because that's what will help you. And so when you see all these Buddhists all sitting there, they're trying to get these minutes going longer. You know, I mean, if you can do 5 minutes completely blank, it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So what you got to do, you got to meditate. You know, as much as you can, and try and get these minutes in, because then, so you just try and clear your mind out. But, you know, if you completely clear, that's why the Buddhists can't do it, because I believe that if you completely clear your mind, I think you're going to die, because if your mind completely clears and there's nothing there, I think your body just starts shutting down because your mind's,
Well, did you hear? Have you seen? There's this guy in India, right? And he's been in. I mean, they might be faking this, but apparently not. Apparently not, according to YouTube. So I don't know how true this is, but apparently there's a guy in India who meditated without food or drink for 2 years. So no water for 2 years. Now I thought you're dead after 72 hours with no water. I don't know how he's done 2 years of just sat there. So whether they're waiting for the cameras to turn off and they're giving him a quick drink, I don't know. But like,
well,
if he's slowing down everything, his heart rate, his digestive system, and clearing, because I think your mind sparks energy, doesn't it? So to think, if you're thinking a lot, you stress a lot, you notice you get hungry, you get tired. So if he's clearing his mind to a point, maybe it just slows everything right down.
Well, with him, I think.
Do you know who I mean? Have you heard about this guy?
Well, there's another one that I think they've just dug up, and I've seen it a few times on Instagram. This monk, and they reckon he was dead. They actually reckon he was dead. And when you see a picture of him, he just looks like porcelain. And but I think he's been gone. He's been out for 30 years. I mean, it's a long time. But they reckon when you completely close yourself down, it's then that your whole, I'm going to contradict myself, but it's then that your whole body starts taking in energy from the outside. So taking the ingredients from the outside and taking the vitamins from the sun, the vitamins. And so basically that's what's fed him. And what they done, so they found him, I think he was in a glass case, to be honest.
Yeah.
And but
alive?
And then they've put something on him, and they said there's a very tiny heartbeat, really tiny, but he's still what's his name? They don't know what to do with him. They don't know to like bang him on him to wake him up.
Is he in some kind of coma?
No, he's gone into exactly what he's gone into. He's for
30 years.
Yes, it's a long time. I'm saying 30 years.
What a
it's
waste!
A long time.
It's a waste of time, that, isn't it?
Well,
what's the point in being alive? Just to be asleep?
To connect with the energy. And when you connect, do you meditate then?
Yeah, I try to. I've been recently. I've been because I get anxiety, so I've been like, and I combat it normally with gym and stuff like that. But I've been trying to like also add in like meditation, just 10 minutes a day.
So you only need 10 minutes. You need 10 minutes a day. And if you do, trying to do 10 minutes of meditation without, I can do it.
Yeah.
But training yourself to do it. But
I can get like a second or 2 seconds maximum. I'll just get flashes of like of blankness. I won't get much longer than that.
I go, I'll attempt to do 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And but if I feel really good, I'll go on for an hour.
Yeah.
And then
every day.
Yeah. And then what will happen is I sit like this and I'll wake up, I'll come out of it. And I can't move. I literally can't move. And what I've used when I started meditating years ago, I use all types of meditation. I use sound waves. So using sound waves to close your mind completely. But it's underneath, like a certain frequency to what's it, like an alpha wave.
Yeah.
And I use theta. I've done all types of things. Spoken meditation, but I've done lots of spoken meditation. And
what's spoken meditation?
When somebody's talking you through the meditation.
Oh, like a guided meditation.
Yeah. So the base, this.
Yeah, that's what I do then. That's all I can do really.
I've done. We're talking about quantum. I've done quantum jumping. I've done quantum jumping.
So what's that?
Quantum jumping is basically you get yourself into a meditate. Say you've got a problem, and I've done this quite a few times. So say you've got a problem, you basically get into a meditative state, and the creativity and the imagination. So you're not really closing your mind off with this, but you're getting into a meditative state. And then what you do, you sort of see a door, and you go through the door. And you then have a conversation with you. So it's like dimensions. And so you're having a conversation
with your higher self.
With a person from another dimension. That's the way it's sort of pitched. Okay. And so, but that person, because there's hundreds and hundreds of dimensions, thousands of dimensions. So what you're doing is you're having a conversation with a person who is been through that problem. You know, so you're going to turn around, go through the door, and see this, have a conversation with this person. How I've done it, I was doing a.
How do you not know you're just talking to yourself?
Well, you are talking to yourself.
But how do you not? How do you know it's someone from another dimension?
Well, I'll give you an example of how I used it. I was asked to do a radio show, and on the radio show there was paranormal investigators, and to be honest with you, they were like, let's call them professional paranormal investigators. And as a medium, I'd been ripped to pieces by people. Lots, you know, you get interviewed, and the medium, you know, where's God and all this sort of stuff, and where's the spirits hanging around. And so I knew I was going into a bit of a lion's den, and because I knew who these people were, and so I went, and I was worried. I was worried about it. And what I'd done, I actually went into, and at this particular time, I was doing these quantum jumping meditations, and for different things. And what I'd done,
so you're going on this show knowing you're going to get ripped, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
And being prepared, getting myself prepared for it.
Right.
Because there's, again, I did lots of things to prepare myself for this, because I ended up being one of the panel.
Yeah.
Because, anyway, so what I'd done, I quantum jumped, and so I meditated, quantum jumped, and what I'd opened the door, and as I opened the door, I have like a corridor, so I'm looking in the corridor, and there I was, stood there in a suit. And I went, and I never said anything to myself. This sounds weird. And I was like, you know, I'm really panicking about this. And
But that's your imagination, though, right?
Is it?
Because you've created that. If it's in your, well, I don't know, is it? That's the thing. Like, how does anyone know?
Well, when I meditate, you know, again, is this your imagination? Is meditation imagination? Is it a dream? Are you falling asleep? But I've meditated in my meditated room, and sat there for a few minutes, felt a shaking, sort of shaking. Next thing, I've shook myself out of my body, and I flew through the ceiling. And one of the things is, it does happen, and you look down and you panic, and that's what pulls you back in. It's like sleeping, isn't it? You know, you say you go out of your body when you're sleeping, and so getting into that state, so you come out of your body, and so you know, that's what I'm saying about meditation. But what I did, I had had this conversation, trying to have this conversation with the other me, and he was stood in a suit, and what I got from it was, wear a suit. That's how. So what I done, I went to the radio station wearing a suit, and unconsciously, this is what it was. Unconsciously, if you work in class, somebody in a suit has authority, and so I wore a suit, and they looked me up and down, and they didn't actually. I knew they'd ripped into people. They'd ripped into, I can't really mention his name, but obviously one of the celebrity mediums. And so I knew where I was going into it. And so I basically wore a suit, and then they looked at me, because they were all in jeans and tracksuit bottoms and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I was in a suit, sat there, and I felt like I was authority. And so they wasn't going to have a go at me. And the other thing, being reading lots of books and things, they were throwing the questions at me, and I was just like, what's them back, bashing them back and whatever. And I got called back onto the show, but every time I went, every single week I got called to the show, and I wore a suit every single week. And I at one stage I went in with a briefcase, but I also taught myself, we're going off track, but I taught myself photo reading books. And what I would do, I'd ask the producer of the radio show to tell me who the guests were, because they end up being as part of the panel. So I'd ask the producer to tell me who the guests were on the show. And I'd go to the library to see if I could find their books, their autobiographies, and photo read their books, so that when they come on the show, so I'd photo read the books on a Thursday and go on the show on a Friday.
Photo read, you mean to memorize the images?
And sort of when they would say, have you got any questions, James? I'd go, I found it interesting in your book, or whatever. And so I'd have a knowledge of each.
But isn't that the thing that they say that mediums do, though, is they research who they're going to read, and then it appears that
how many people's lives, like, as your, I don't know who's passed over, but like, as your grandmother, has she got a Facebook page that I could go to, or a YouTube? I can watch her on YouTube. Yes, you could do it potentially with celebrities, and I've read celebrities, and one particular celebrity turned around and said she wasn't going to have a reading off me because I would know everything about her. And to be honest, I wasn't in the slightest interested in her. Yeah. She was off one of the shows on actually regular TV actor, and I wasn't interested. Yeah. And I didn't do a reading for her. Yeah. What I'd done 10 readings for the other people that were in the actual house. So you can research it, but rooting around the bins to find an Asda Asda receipt or whatever. But for me, it's the spirit world. Say, for instance, again, let's use a great granddad as an example. They would come to me before I was actually going to see it anyway. Yeah. You'd get while meditating, they would come to you, you'd get this energy, and sometimes you'd turn around and say, well, if you're here for Nick, come back after. That's what you would say to them.
Are you aware of the work that Robert Bigelow's doing?
No.
In America. So he's basically this billionaire in America called Robert Bigelow, and he has spent millions, if not billions, of dollars on proving that UFOs are here, that aliens exist, and into proving that there are entities, ghosts, whatever, but trying to scientifically prove it. So he's at the moment now, he's working on a project where he believes that he will be able to scientifically prove that spirits exist on another realm. So it's quite interesting. You should check him out.
Well, it's like the magician who's recently died. What's his name? James Randi. Do you know about that? He had £1 million challenge, and to prove there was life after death, and he was challenging all the, and everyone was turning around and saying, a couple of people had put their head on the block. Yeah. James Randi asked me to do it, and I refused to do it.
Why?
Because he done it on a radio show, and he said, he was quite nice to me actually, which was a surprise. And he turned around and he was
most people aren't nice to you on these shows.
When you're the medium. So and basically
so you used to taking a lot of shit.
Yeah. So when they asked me to do the £1 million, the whole of the panel was saying, "Are you going to do it? We're going to do it." I went, "No, I'm not going to do it." Yeah. And they went, "It's $1 million, $1 million," and I went, "Not interested." And
do you charge for readings?
Yeah, I charge for readings. I don't charge $1 million. Yeah. But what stuck... See, I've been brought up differently. Maybe it is the way I've been brought up as a person. But my mind went back. There was two ladies, and these two ladies, from different towns and whatever. But one of them in Warrington, she was about 80-odd, 85, and her husband had died. And all she wanted to do was die.
Right.
To go with her husband, and she stuck in my head when that not the £1 million $1 million challenge, and I was thinking, if I went and done that challenge and I wasn't going to win, obviously I wasn't going to win the $1 million, but if I went on that and I didn't win it, how does that look to her? Because I basically turned around and said, your husband's waiting for you, and when the time's right, you can go over to him. There was another lady who, she was like 80s, late 80s, and she had a son who was 60, in his 60s, and he had, I'm not sure of the term now, if it's right, he had sort of Downs. He had Downs.
Right, yeah.
And she was worried who was going to look after him if she died. Yeah. And all she wanted was, I think he was going to be, I think he was about 63. Yeah. And she wanted another 2 years because once he got to 65, he was going to be looked after.
Right, by the state.
By the state. Yeah. And so she wanted them to, and so I had to then confirm, don't worry about it, you're going to be here for another 2 years. So the $1 million is nothing when you're giving that information.
Yeah.
And
so how do you know someone would be there for another 2 years?
because it's what I'm getting from the spirit world, and it's what they would turn around and say to me, she's not going now, we're not waiting for her. It's again, I had somebody who came to me with, and this is where you have to be trained by people who have got empathy. Anybody can be a medium. You can pick up a set of tarot cards and do your card reading, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're connecting with the spirit world or whatever. But you've got to have empathy for people. And I'm just thinking, there was a lady who came to me who was terminally ill with cancer, and she knew she was dying, and she was quite a strong lady. The way she came into my house and she turned around and said to me straight, I know I'm dying. And she said, and you can't stop that. And she said, but I want to know how long I've got. And I knew she was going to go, because what happened, someone emailed me and told me that this lady was terminally ill and she was being given 6 months to live. Now, what you got, I'll emphasize something after I say this. So what I turned around and said is, I'm aware that you got 1 foot in the grave, because I can actually see that was 1 foot in the grave. And this was like November. And I said, but I don't think you're going to go now. I think you're going to go next year. And I said, I think you're going to be, there's going to be, I don't know, maybe another 5 or 6 months. And she died the year after. But when I told her that, she cried. And she said she'd met a guy in July and she just wanted a Christmas with him. That's all she wanted. And so she basically died. I think she died like March or April. And this guy who gave me the link said to me, I'm upset to tell you that she died. And I said, I'm not upset. I said, because she wanted a Christmas and she got a Christmas with that guy. What you've got to watch as well is what you say to people. Because, if you have to think, I couldn't turn around and say to you, don't have chemo or whatever. And some people will say that, because you've just got to watch exactly what you say and you follow what the doctor says. If the doctor turned around and said you've got 6 months, still keep going to the doctor, still keep doing whatever. But I'm saying to you from me, and spiritually, and you've got to say for entertainment purposes, all this sort of rubbish. You've turned around and say, I believe that you're going to live a bit longer. And obviously, even your own human, if you want to live as well, and you've got it in you, the strength, some people do, don't they? Yeah. Some people beat cancer, and they say, how the heck did they beat it? Yeah. It's how your brain is. Yeah. But yeah,
it's strange, isn't it? So she did get the 6 months then.
Well, I think she was running out of the 6 months when she was coming to me. I think she thought it was a bit strange. I remember her email address, Sunken Torpedo. That was an email address. And when she came in, she bounced into my house and and she just the way she was, really, really strong. And I think she'd been, maybe it was her energy that kept her going, whatever, but I think she was like thinking she was going to die before Christmas, because the doctors said you got 6 months and you might have.
You got a lot of people with illnesses coming to you.
You get, talking about Reiki and things like that, you get people who want healing or they want some sort of relief or some sort of relaxation and whatever. But you really do have to watch yourself what you say these days to people in case you get sued, and things like that. So it is a bit more difficult now. So you know. So
do you think someone would be able to sue if they said, look, I've got this illness, and you were to get a message through saying don't have this treatment?
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Some people might say, yeah, I wouldn't. You have to.
Would you pass that message on?
I would have a problem passing it on, unless it was like really, really strong energy of somebody. But I wouldn't turn around and say don't have the medication. I've got to, you can't even turn around and say if a lady comes or a young girl comes to you and she's pregnant, and she hasn't done a scan or whatever, or you turn around and she says, I want to know you get people coming up to you and say, I want to know I'm a pregnant, and you go, have you not had a pregnancy test?
Yeah.
It's like, why come to a psychic to ask them that? And
Would you be able to tell though? If you got a message through, would you tell someone, yeah, you're pregnant?
Again, with me, it's working with the spirit world. So the spirit world will be telling me something.
Yeah.
And so they may say she's pregnant, or for a lot of years, I had people who were coming to me who couldn't have children. And they were like contacting me and saying, you know, can you tell me if I'm going to have children? And we tried IVF and all this sort of stuff. And I'd go, that's a hard question. But, you know, you'd have to be honest with them. You know, you have to be honest with them. Because, you know, it's like you can turn around to people and say, I did say to this girl once that she was going to get pregnant. And she just laughed. She just laughed at me, and she walked off. I was doing a reading in a social club in Yorkshire somewhere, and I said this to this girl, and I think she might have even asked me, "Am I ever going to get pregnant?" And I turned around and said, "Yeah, you're going to get pregnant," and you know, what's the sex and whatever. And she had the reading and walked off. About 5 minutes later, a mum ran across the pub, the club, and turned around and went, "You've just turned around and said my daughter's gonna get pregnant." And I went, "Well, that's what I got." And she went, "How can she when she's gay?" And I went, "What's that got to do with anything?" I said she could adopt.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's just the way some people are.
So when you're doing a reading, how long does it take you to get in tune with the person you're reading?
It really depends.
Yeah.
So you can sit down and your spirit could just come in. But with me, it is all to do with the spirit. And so like
you're talking to me now, have you had a spirit come to you?
I would basically turn around and say to you, it would be forced onto me.
Yeah.
But
what I'm saying is, while you've been talking to me now for the past half an hour, you've not had a spirit come to try and tell you anything about me.
No, I'm not backtracking out of it.
No, I'm asking a genuine question,
Because you have got to be in a certain relaxed state as well.
Yeah.
So you have to be a relaxed state and to pick up the energy. So with no use me turning around and saying to you, "Oh, I've got this band coming to you."
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't need to score the points. I want spirit to do it.
Yeah.
You know, I really get something out of it. I get a kick out of it. And so for me, I do get paid for my readings and things. But sometimes you do a reading for somebody and you just think, "Oh, I don't really want it," because it was like just the energy.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, if there was a gentleman who wanted to come through to you and start having a conversation with you, how it would start, for instance, they could come forward and try to show me that they're manipulating you. So, for instance, they may turn around and say, he needs to turn around and look back at what he's done.
Right.
And that might not be, if I was doing a reading for you, that might be significant to you, but to anybody else it wouldn't.
Right.
But if I was getting the message, that's what I would say to you.
Right.
I would say to you that whatever you've done in the past, I think you really need to look back at it.
Yeah.
Actually, you need to look back at it because it looks good, and I think you've got that experience. You've got whatever you've done. So for me, you must be looking at something now that you may be worried about doing. There may be a project that you're worried about doing. Maybe it's to do with experience. You might be doing something bigger, but you're worried about it and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do it. I don't do it. But what the spirit would be saying to me is, look at where you've come from, and look where you are now. You've got all that experience, and you utilize that. Yeah, that would be how they would work with me.
How that would be put forward. And do you get negative energies coming through?
You get, well, it depends on where, you get, just as examples, you would get, it's hard to say negative, it's less experienced spirit.
Right.
And so some of them can be a bit darker.
So a less experienced spirit, would you say, would say could tend to be more, what's the word?
If you went to a venue...
So a less experienced spirit is a new soul?
It's... A new soul could be... A new soul may not have any sort of hang-ups, nothing, I don't know how you would it's like a new soul, so
Right.
they want to experience, so there may not be any negativity. But what you get, for instance, you know, talking about ghosts and things like that, you will get, say, a murderer's Passover.
Yeah.
If you imagine, do you know Ghost, the film?
Yeah.
It is a bit like that, right? And so what would happen is, you know, when you die and and the music starts and then all the white lights come for you.
Yeah.
It's like you go off with the white lights and things, or the spirits, you know, one of the things you turn around to, but the grandmother came for him and took him away and whatever. And so with what you find is that if you go to a sort of haunted location, for instance, and a negative or less experienced spirit is there, they may have seen that light, the lights come from, and they went, no, I'm not going. I'm not going. So they just stay there. Just stay there and they don't go, and that's why they haunt in the place.
But can they go?
Yeah, they can go, because going back to God, you know, yes, they may have done something negative here, but it's like they may look and go, oh my God, I've now got to pay the penalty. So you get people who do get that opportunity. So when you go to sort of exercise a house, you can bring in spirits, you have guides and all, you know, let's say angels and things. They will be working with you to try and move this spirit out.
Right.
So you can get, as examples, there was 4. I went to a house. I'm trying to think where I'm in Manchester, but it was wet, very wet behind the ears.
Yeah.
When I went to this venue, and this guy was like crying on the phone to me, and he was saying, "Can you come to the house?"
Yeah.
And I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "I need you to come to the house." And again, I was like really excited. I was like young and thinking, I've got to go to this house, see this ghost and whatever.
Yeah.
And when I got to it, it was just horrible. You walked in and you felt it. It was
Yeah.
just dark energy. It was just like really, really dark energy. And this spirit was sort of pushing him and prodding him and waking him up in the middle of the night and throwing him out the bed and all this type of stuff.
Just having a laugh.
And a bit extreme. And basically how...
What do you think? What was the spirit's intention? Do you think? Like, is this spirit just like, I'm just take the piss out of this guy and keep him up all night? Or?
Yeah, but worse than that. And what
How,
he
like
done...
what?
Can you go? How far can you go?
It's not PG.
He was getting raped. He was literally getting raped
By a spirit?
Yeah. So how does that work? So he was getting. That's what he was saying. He was getting pinned to the bed, and he was getting pinned to the bed by more than one. So when I went to the house again, I was wet behind the ears.
He was getting gang raped by ghosts.
Yeah. So it was like proper horror film. Again,
hell.
how do you interpret? I can tell you. I'm trying to think of the area. But his house was built on olive. See, again, I question stuff, and I'm like,
Did you question him when he was saying this?
I knew that he was married, and his wife woke up and seen him pinned to the bed, and she jumped out of the bed and she ran down the stairs. And the way he said, she ran out of the house and never come back. And she went back to live with the mother. So he was
seen him pinned to the bed.
pinned to the bed. Yeah.
Is this what he told you?
This is what he said. And so he was getting pinned
Or
to the
was
bed.
he crazy and she ran out of the house because he was a nut job?
All of it. I can't really say that because, you know.
What do you think, though, in your honest opinion?
I think, I seen stuff in the house.
Did you see? So, okay.
I seen a, you know, it's like the usual thing. I seen a monk walking through the actual house and looking at me and smiling at me. Because what I was doing, I was thinking, oh, what I'll do, because I thought this guy's a bit off, and I was saying to him, just come here, sit down and relax. And what I'll do some Reiki on you, and so I put my hands on his shoulders, and I was like doing like connecting with the spirit world and whatever, and the Reiki energy, and then I opened my eyes and it just walked past and just smiled.
What was it that walked past?
It was a monk, but it was the horrible looking. It was just like an evil looking monk,
Right.
and that was it. But what had happened? The house was built on. It was a council house at the end of a council row, and he had been doing it up. And basically, he'd laid the tiles in the kitchen, and he got up. He'd done it, And then he got up one morning and there was a bump in it's proper like poltergeist stuff. There was a bump in the tiles. And so what he done, he went, what the heck's that? So he had to dig it all back up.
Yeah.
He got leveling compound,
Yeah.
put the tiles back down on it, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then again, it bumped up. So what he thought, I'll have to dig this. So he dug it up. So he dug it all up and he got to another floor, which the house was built on Oliver Cromwell's encampments on the outside of Manchester near the airport.
Yeah.
And so that's where his house was built. Anyway, he'd left this hole in the ground, and that's when it happened. So we had a big, huge Doberman Pinscher, not Doberman Pinscher, these black and brown. They had a big, huge dog.
Yeah.
And he had one of them. And while I'm basically doing Reiki on him, the dog was in the kitchen, locked away, and I'm like closing my eyes and like trying to connect and whatever. Open my eyes, see him, this monk, and the dog's going mad in the kitchen. And then I said to him, is the dog all right in the kitchen? He said, yeah, don't worry about it, it's locked up. So I was just like trying to concentrate again, and I opened my eyes and I could hear rattling on the door. Next thing, the dog come running through the house, going for me, because I'm over this man with my hands on his shoulders. And I said, the dog's out. And so what he done, he jumped up, grabbed hold of the dog, dragged the dog out into the kitchen, and then he said, he sat back down, and I was thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? What, and I was like young, I was thinking, what am I doing here? They need to get an expert, they need to get somebody in. I was like really in panic now.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, Reiki, doing Reiki, and I'm like, oh, come on, James, get out of here. You got to get out of here. And I'm like trying to work out how I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
And then the dog is still going mad in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I said, is the dog all right? And he goes, yeah, don't worry, I've locked the door. He said, I've locked it with the key. And I said, right, okay. So I was carried on doing it, and the dog's still going there. Next thing, I looked, and the dog was out of the kitchen, and it was running at me again.
Yeah.
And I said, the dog's out again. And he just like jumped up, and I went, I said, listen, mate, I said, I think I'm going to have to get, and by now this fella had gone, it was just like dark energy. It was in the winter as well, so it was dark out at night. And I just said, listen, mate, I don't think I can do this. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I think we're going to have to get an expert in. I think we're going to have to get somebody in to do it, some like a demonologist or something like that.
And did he?
Yeah, I actually got somebody to, and apparently it cleared. Well, I don't know. He just basically never contacted me again.
Right.
And then changing from that, you will go. I was in Manchester.
Yeah.
And I was an operations manager for a company, and what I used to do was I used to do readings like twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday, and I used to meditate every day and whatever. And so I went into one of these offices in Manchester because we had contracts in offices, and I went to an office and I was talking to one of the directors, and this man appeared in a white suit. It's just like Randall Lockhart moments, and normally spirits would touch, I'd feel their energy.
Yeah.
And this guy just stood there, and I was like, come over so I can work out who you are. And the director, she said to me, because I popped in, because we had staff, and I popped in her office, and she was saying to me, how do you stay so calm, relaxed, in like such a stressful job? And I said, I just meditate. And she said, why do you meditate? I said, well, and I thought, and this guy appeared and said, well, I work as a psychic.
Yeah.
And she went, she said, what do you mean you work as a psychic? I said, well, I do readings on Tuesday and Thursday. I said, that's what I do. And I go to church, Spiritualist church and stuff. And she said, is anything, as they all say, is there anything around me? And I went, well, actually, I said, there's a man here in a white suit.
Yeah.
And I said, but he's dead strange. He's like, he won't come to me.
Yeah.
And she said, what's he like? And I said, he's about this big. I said, he's I described him. Yeah. I said, but he's got a white suit. And I said, that's strange. And I said, like, trying to get him to come to me and say something to me. And then he said a word to me.
Yeah.
And I went, he just said a word to me. And she said, what's the word? And I said, I think he's made it up because I don't understand. I can't understand what the word is. I've never heard of the word. Yeah. And she said, well, what's the word? I said, molestation. And she went, oh, right, okay. And I went, what's that mean? And she went, that's me stepfather. I went, right. And she said, and he molested all of us, all the kids. And I went, oh, right, that's why the spirit world wouldn't let him come to me for me to touch him. But molestation, I just couldn't even work out what the word was.
Yeah.
And it was like molested all the kids in the family. So that's the sort of the less
Darker
experience of the darker. You know, I've had people sort of refuse people. So, for instance, you know, there was a lady, the four sisters, and they booked me for readings. At the house on the Wirral. And I went, and this man popped in and said, "I've got this man." And I said, "I feel like it's your father." "No, I don't want to talk to him." And I went, "Well, he's adamant he wants to. I'm not interested."
Right.
And I said, "Well, I don't care. Can you get somebody else?" And I go, "Well, I can't dial. You know, I'll have to wait to get somebody." Yeah. And so, you know, trying to do a reading, but this man's like proper energy coming in. And then, so done what I could, stopped, did another one, done what I could, stopped. The last one came in was the oldest daughter.
Right.
And I said, "I've got to say to you, your dad's here." And I said, "And he's coming in." She said, "Let him in." And I went, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yeah, I don't want to tell him what I think of him."
Yeah.
And she just let loose. So it was like, I said, "Where is he?" "Here." And so she's like having a conversation with him, like abusing him.
Yeah.
And he's like saying, "Oh, I'm awful sorry about what I've done. I should never have done all this sort of stuff." And so that's the type of sort of, you know, the negative things you get coming through. Less
It's crazy,
experience.
man. It's a crazy subject. I mean, I don't know where. I mean, I've yet to see. I mean, I have faith that there is something. For me, it's difficult to like, because I've not had a personal experience with an entity that's not physical. It's hard for me to wrap my head around it, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm open-minded, man. I'm definitely open-minded to it.
I mean, I've been doing paranormal investigations for 21 years.
Yeah.
And you go to locations that are supposedly haunted, and sometimes it's when if you see.
I'm going to one. You know, we've got a show coming up in September, and later in September, because I think this is going to go out in September. But it's like be out towards like the end of September, early October, and I've got a paranormal investigators coming here. Then I'm going with them with the cameras to an apparently haunted location.
Okay.
And we're gonna sort of see what happens.
See
I
if you
suppose.
get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what my job is. That's what my company is. We do paranormal events, and but yeah, until when you're at a venue, and then you see something as a medium, you think, you know, there's a man stood there, and then a guest turns around and says, "Is there a man stood there?" Or they see something. That's when you start thinking, you know, when other people start feeling and seeing the same thing, it's weird. It's weird because you've got somebody who can see it as well.
Yeah.
You know,
confirming it basically.
You doubt yourself,
Yeah,
but you know.
Well, when you can't physically see something, you're relying on belief, aren't you?
Yeah.
James, thank you so much, mate.
No
This
problem.
has been brilliant. Thank you.